It's sort of the culmination of some plans we put into effect after 2012 when Rutgers and Maryland joined the Big Ten. We said at the time we wanted to live here and just not visit. So over the last 18 months we've done a lot, and really having a conference men's tournament championship here in 2018 and having a hockey, basketball, Big Ten doubleheader here starting in 2016 for a 4-year period represents, I think, by action, what our words were, and that is we don't want to visit, we want to live here. We have some wonderful venues, and we have some wonderful cities in the Midwest that we historically have played our championships in. But going forward, we're going to be playing championships on the East Coast as well as on the Midwest. 2017, we're at the Verizon Center. As you know, we added Johns Hopkins, Maryland, as a really important lacrosse community. We were moving in that area, so Hopkins came in, and we've got a lacrosse championship happening. That's really important in the East, but it's also a coming sport in the West. The Pinstripe Bowl, another great venue, Yankee Stadium, and we're going to be involved with them for the next 8 years. The Gavitt Tip-Off Classic was announced here earlier in the year to honor Dave Gavitt, one of the great coaches and administrators in the history of college basketball. And we're really pleased that we're able to not only help us grow in the East, but help them grow in the Midwest. So we believe in partnerships, and we believe that the partnership with Madison Square Garden will truly give us a chance to not only visit and compete here, but live here to an extent. This summer we were able to announce full distribution of the Big Ten Network up and down the East Coast, and so that represents another effort that we were hoping to get done this year. We've also opened offices here on 3rd Avenue, and so we're able to not only play here and live here, but also work here. And lastly, I would want to tell you that this is not an uncomplicated situation. We needed a lot of cooperation, not only from Madison Square Garden, but from our coaches, our athletic directors, and our presidents. Basketball season normally starts in November and goes into the NCAA tournament, and in between our conference championships. And typically the Big Ten is played on the weekend of selection weekend, and we're going to move it up a week. The Big East and Madison Square Garden are contracted. We respect contracts. We try to figure out a way, how can we be here, and how can they do their thing? And so we spent a lot of time with our coaches about how do you can you have rest without having rust? And how should we do that? Should we get some non-conference games scheduled in there? And 7 or 8 of our coaches have coached at mid-major level, and they've experienced this before. I was a mid-major commissioner for 10 years. We experienced it. I think we had Dick Vitale standing on his head one time when Austin Peay upset the University of Illinois, and we had good wins against NC State with Coach Valdano and Florida State. And so we have played early. I've been a commissioner when we played early, and most of our coaches, actually the majority of them, have been mid-major coaches, and so they were really good about it. A couple will play some games. Most of them will rest, put new sets in, and be ready to go on selection weekend. But I think they understood that we live in 2 regions, and we have to have, even though the great majority of championships will be in the Midwest, we're contracted in Indianapolis for football through 2021. And really, of the first 20 conference basketball championships, only 2 will be out east, but 2 in an 8-year period will be out here. So there will be a rotation. We want to be here. We want to make friends. We want to be part of the community. And from a personal perspective, my dad played at St. Benedict's in 1936. My grandfather played in 1906. So I know J.R. Smith is a St. Benedict's graduate, also and plays here. But my dad played as a high school student in Garden number 3, and I played in Garden number 4. So I'm so pleased that some of our coaches and all of our players during that period will get a chance to play here. We have 12 regular season games in the New York City area this year. So we're here, and we want to be part of the community, and I can't think of a better way than being able to announce that we're going to have a hockey basketball doubleheader of Big Ten teams and also a Big Ten championship tournament in 2018. So I want to thank Joel for working with us on this, working through all the details, and in particular I want to thank our coaches. because we wouldn't have a Big Ten network without our coaches, because they went dark for a year before we could build it and get it right. And so they have the benefits of that sacrifice, and there's some sacrifices made here by them to make this occur. So, you know, Coach Izzo was in DC for the announcement, and I think Coach Gross is going to be with us today. We have a half dozen of our schools represented by coaches or athletic directors. So I want to thank all of them for working with us to make it happen. In particular, I want to thank our staff for helping put this together today. Thank you very much.
Now time to welcome Joe Fisher. He's the MSG Executive VP of Sports Properties. His tenure at Madison Square Garden has spanned over 30 years. He played a critical role in the transformation of Madison Square Garden and continues to oversee the day-to-day operations of MSG Sports Properties. Here's Joe.
Thanks, Joe. As you mentioned before, the Garden is celebrating the 80th year of college basketball this season. For a long time, college basketball revolved around New York City and Madison Square Garden. Teams from all over the country, as we know, are attracted to the lure of MSG and want to play here, the mecca of college basketball. Since December 29th, almost today, as you said earlier, a couple weeks, 1934, Madison Square Garden has been host to many historic moments in college basketball, including many NIT championships, great Big East tournaments, the Sweater Game, Oscar Robertson's 56 points game against Seton Hall, the historic CCNY Double Championship, and for the first time in 53 years, the NCAA tournament returned to the Garden last season, including an appearance by the Big Ten's Michigan State Spartans. We're also proud of the fact that the NCAA East Regional will return back to the Garden in 2017. Today, we are really thrilled to collaborate with the Big Ten Conference on this unique college basketball and hockey partnership. The addition of the Big Ten Conference tournament in 2018 will certainly add to our the long list of our historic events, and we look forward to several top-notch days of college basketball. The Big Ten has some of the most storied schools in college basketball, two of which are playing here tonight, both Indiana and Illinois, and they're playing upstairs in the Jimmy V Classic tonight. College hockey doesn't have the 80-year history, but they still have great programs in the Big Ten. About 7 years ago, in 2007, we brought back college hockey regularly here. We started off with the first red-hot hockey contest between Cornell and Boston University, and for the 4 games that we've had of that matchup, we basically sold out all of those games. In addition, 2 years ago, we had Michigan play Cornell, that sold out, and a couple weeks ago, we had Penn State in hockey play Cornell, and that virtually sold out. So we're looking forward to bringing some of the top teams in the country and showcasing Big Ten hockey to all the fans in this area. I learned this today, but the success of the Big Ten in hockey is really unmatched. The Big Ten has won 23 NCAA titles in hockey. Michigan has won more NCAA titles than anyone, 9. Wisconsin is not far behind with 6. I highlight these 2 programs because, as you know, we have the former Wolverine, Carl Hagelin, and the former Badger, Derek Stepan, with us today. 2 great stars of the Rangers, and I really appreciate you guys coming today to show your support. I got to take this moment to thank Jim, Coach, Commissioner Delaney, and all the staffs that worked on this. This was not simple to get done, and we've spoken about this idea for a long time, ever since Maryland and Rutgers came into the conference, basically. And it took a lot, but I got to tell you, Jim is an out-of-the-box thinker. He really wanted to make this happen. We both said, with all the staffs and all the people that worked on this was too big an idea to not let happen. We stuck at it, and I'm thrilled today that it's come to fruition and we're able to announce this. So thank you for all of your hard work, for everybody's hard work that worked on this, and I can't wait for these games to start happening. So thank you everybody for coming today.
Now it's time to welcome Sherry Mazur, who's a VP of Communications for the V Foundation, along with V Foundation board member and longtime ESPN broadcaster John Saunders. They'll accept a donation of $10,000 towards the V Foundation on behalf of the Big Ten Conference and Madison Square Garden. I think John would like to say a couple of words.
First, the number one word you want to say about anything like this is thank you. Thank you for anybody who's ever given. Thank you to the Big Ten for their contribution. Jim Valvano is so connected to this building. As a high school basketball player, he always wanted to play here. As a college player, he got that dream come true when he played here with Rutgers in the backcourt with Bob Lloyd, who was All-American, of course. Jim always said he was the one nobody talked about, nobody heard of, but he was the one who made Bob Lloyd a star. He then wanted to coach here, and as the head coach of Iona, he got to play here in the 9 o'clock game, coaching Iona as they beat the #2 team in the nation back then, which was Louisville. And then, of course, he's connected here with his famous V Foundation speech, the announcement at the ESPYs of the formation of the V Foundation, which was held here in the Paramount. It was an amazing night. If you haven't seen that speech, you get a chance to see it tonight, either on ESPN or here inside the Garden. It was really something that we who were with him behind the scenes that night never expected that night to come off, because Jim was so ill from cancer. He barely could get out of his wheelchair, so we never thought he'd even get on stage. So when you see how enchanting and fantastic he was that night on stage, you'll be amazed at what he went through to do that. So it's really appropriate that this would happen here in the basketball tournament that's been so successful, and we've now raised over $130 million in a little over 20 years. So this is a foundation that started Jim and I sitting at his dining room table, him in his bathrobe, still recovering from treatments, and writing down names of people we thought would be good on the board of directors. So it started out so small, and to become what it is just amazing. But it obviously wouldn't happen without great help from all of you, and of course for donations like this from the Big Ten. So thank you very much. Really appreciate it.
Time now to introduce two of the core Rangers here, as has been mentioned. Carl Hagelin and Derek Stepan, both with ties to the Big Ten as well. Fellas, we really appreciate you being here, and come on up and say a couple things.
Well, first of all, I just want to say that I think this partnership between the Big Ten and Madison Square Garden is a great initiative. As a student athlete, you always want to be a part of something big, and to have the opportunity to play at the world's most famous arena is something that I think many kids dream about, and to be able to do that at such an early age as you would do in college is tremendous. So the kids coming up here is very fortunate to have the opportunity to play at MSG.
Yeah, just to piggyback what Carl said, it's a great opportunity for college students to come to New York City and play in the world's most famous arena. I know that the Big Ten rivalries are awesome, and they're really exciting to watch. What a better atmosphere to watch it than Madison Square Garden.
Thanks, guys. At this point, we'd like to open it up to questions. If you could state your name and affiliation before the question, go ahead.
Roger Rubin from the New York Daily News. Joel, given that you have the long-standing relationship with the Big East, did you feel it necessary, even though there wasn't going to be an overlap with dates or anything like that, to sort of just let them know that this negotiation was going on? And if so, what was that like?
Yeah, both Jim and I have great relationships with Big East, with Val Ackerman, their commissioner, and we both felt it was appropriate to let her know we were having those discussions. She was great. She completely understood. We think this will actually help. It'll be college basketball, lead into the Big East tournament. It'll be a great week and a half of college basketball. So we did feel it was appropriate with the relationships we had, and Val was great about it.
Yeah, I ditto that. Val and I have talked about this early. She probably, realized we wanted to play in this area. We wanted to do things with the Big East, in fact. So we've been talking about how we can collaborate. Life is a lonely place without partners, and Val I consider to be a partner. And as a result, we have a tip-off. We'll probably do other things with them, because while we're new in this area, her conference is new in the Midwest, and we feel like together we can help each other grow in new regions for each of us.
Does that mean that there's some kind of plan for the Big East to do something in the Midwest?
Well, I think they have four or five institutions in the Midwest.
No, I mean, you're having an event out east. Do you know if they're planning to have an event?
I don't know. I know they are playing their baseball tournament in Omaha, and so I presume that they'll do things to build their presence in the Midwest as we do things to try to build our presence in the East, but you'd have to get any details from that, of that from her, not me.
Anybody else?
Hi, Rob McCauley from Illini Report. I'd like to ask about future tournaments on the west side of the conference, because you probably want the Minnesota and Nebraska fans to be able to go to Omaha or something like that.
Yeah. Well, I think that, what we've done is moved big events around. We started off only in Chicago, and then we, branched out to Indianapolis, and now DC and New York. Our baseball tournament is in Minneapolis this year. It was in Omaha last year. We're going back to Omaha in alternate years. I think it's in 16 and 18. Our hockey tournament was in St. Paul this year. It's in Detroit. And we're pretty much contracted through 21, I think it is. And thereafter, I think there will be a good open discussion about broadening opportunities for cities to participate. We've had a lot of interest from Omaha, from Minneapolis, from Detroit, and we're fortunate to have great venues, great cities, lots of Big Ten people. We've got over 1 million people living from Southern Connecticut to Northern Virginia. They all have wives and they all have kids, so we've got a great community of people in this region that we want to serve, but we also realize that the majority of people and the majority of institutions are in the Midwest, and I think our presence there will reflect that over time. But we also said we wanted to live here, not visit here. So as a result, we've done a lot of things to try to actualize that.
Shannon Ryan, Chicago Tribune. Jim, if you could elaborate on the point you were talking about, just the condensed schedule and talking to coaches about that. What was the feedback you got from coaches, and was that kind of the biggest sticking point for many of them?
Yeah, the feedback was, they realized, when we added Penn State and then ultimately Rutgers and Maryland, that they're going to be playing out here. They realized they're going to be recruiting out here. They realized that all of the major conferences now live in 2 regions. I don't think anybody would confuse Missouri with the Deep South, nor would they confuse Colorado and Utah with the Pacific 10, nor would they confuse Boston and Syracuse and Pittsburgh with the Mid-Atlantic. So all of us are living in second regions, and I think our conversations went something like this: if we're going to have institutions there, if we're going to recruit there, these are a lot of great high school students, a lot of great high school athletes. We have to participate, and I was just pleased that they were willing to listen to the arguments on behalf of DC and New York. They recognized that we were not going to be able to be in New York early. And so I asked them to consider going a week early. I asked them to consider the fact that the amount of time after the tournament, could be viewed as too much time away from basketball, but it might also be viewed as time to rest and put in some new sets or play an additional conference game. And they thought about it. I've talked to them probably 3 or 4 different times. I talked to them individually and collectively. And over a long period of time, they got comfortable with it. It's a one-off. It's a one-timer. We'll see how it all works. If there's a great response, and they'll have the experience. Their players will have the experience, and we'll see what happens. DC is on a normal weekend, so it was really a conversation that played out over a good part of a year. A couple of in-persons, a lot of telephonic back and forth. And at the end of the day, they were willing to do this. We had these kinds of conversations around the Big Ten Network 7 or 8 years ago. Sacrifices sometimes are made as you try to, get to a better place. And so I think 20 conferences or 15 conferences play a week early. We'll be one of them. And you could argue that because we'll be a week early, You know, there'll be different kind of competition while there'll be more basketball games going on. The fact of it is that you're not head-to-head with the Big East, the ACC, the Pac-12, and the SEC. So you might see some growth in viewership. You might see some time to rest and recuperate. And for those who want to play a game, there's obviously ways to do that because everybody else has finished their season early. Typically, you don't see those conferences go back and schedule again. In fact, one of our coaches said that we had some separation, and I can't remember whether it was that he lost early and then so he created a scrimmage, I think, with a school within their area that was allowable because they had a scrimmage opportunity left, and he said it fell on sort of deaf ears. So most of them, and I was surprised by this, most of them decided that in the event that there was this gap time that they would not try to compete. They would try to rest, put in new sets, and get ready for the tournament. But it was a sacrifice by them. In a perfect world, I think they would have preferred it, but they were willing to, participate in a team way. It's a team effort.
Jim, thank you. Joel, thank you. Carl and Derek, thank you. Thanks everyone for coming. There'll be a reception here from 5 to 7. Have a great day, everyone. Thanks so much for coming out.